Hi, I want to talk about how the organization can utilize its own potential with collecting the wisdom of people. And I wrote books about it. The idea of the mini company, which is to promote the self managing skill, helping customers be responsible as the president of the mini company. Within each of the organization, department, unit can be seen as a mini company. So that's one idea. The other important idea is called the glass wall management. Often the barriers within the organization would let people not to see what's going on in the customer or supplier or the bankers or employees. So you want to have the key information available for people to look at. So that's the condition. And with the motivated employee, with a good leadership, people can be empowered and the whole organization can be transforming itself, even find the bottleneck on their own instead of someone or some consultant to come and help. But if they do by their own, much better. It's a decentralized organization. It's a self-organizing power we each have by connecting to each other. There's even the philosophy of Kegon related to that. Because the Kegon will look into the individual's case, not the organization. But that's another story that I can talk about. But back to the organization and empowerment, utilizing the power of talent of people, collecting the wisdom. That's what we need in organization. But organization is a mini organization and a larger organization. So from individual to company, within the company, but the company to the community, the nation, and the international, the whole scope of the humanity working together, hopefully, to make everybody be happy. May all beings be happy. So that's the way of managing, but not managing because we are depending on people's self-organizing power, which they have. Because individually, that's how we are born out of the dust of the universe. So it's a whole scheme of things that connect to each other. But it's kind of difficult to explain. But at least, some of you may get some idea. Unless you exercise this, you may not get this idea, but I call it organizational enlightenment. And enlightenment is awakening and self-organizing power for them to get better. So everyone's destiny is connected to each other. And if we have people who are equipped with such talent, doing what they like to do and help the society, that's the spirit. This whole organization can perform wonder. And that's what I did 40 some years as a consultant and also in the private equity business and various other settings, and lectured and books written and so forth. It's probably a little bit far-fetched because people are busy in their own way of thinking, their own field, but that requires a little bit going beyond your own barrier, mind barrier of what you do to encompass, to understand the integrated power instead of an egocentric narrow-mindedness, but going open, even connecting to the heart. So to use the brain, listen to your heart. That's the internal engine of empowerment and finding the destiny. Connected to the individual, to organization, to the humanity. That's the whole truth transformation that I think is happening, whether we recognize or not. But as in the case of AI, artificial intelligence, deep learning, and even this chatbot GPT, all those activity is fundamentally to collect the wisdom that is stored in a huge database in somewhere in a data center, in computer somewhere, but you can access it. So the process of the neuroscience, process of the AI, the drive force to move forward is essentially the same as this organization structure I mentioned toward the organizational enlightenment, or the wisdom and compassion coming out on its own. Not so much at the top, Of course, top has to do something, and middle has to do something, and the shop floor, I call it, has to do something, and across the boundaries of the horizontal level of the organization, they all speak different language, accounting, human resource, or manufacturing, operation, or IT. So they have to have that awareness, and that's the power of what we are trying to do. But if we don't do it in a manner that is coherent with this thought, but self or locally optimized, then you get stuck. So we have to have this whole understanding, and that's what we need. Okay, I spent 5-6 minutes on this, but that's one issue that I see it important, but about the organizational issue, empowerment, leadership, relationship to AI. So let's look at internal to each organization, because the concept is concept, execution has to be done at each individual level. Without that, it's not good. But each individual I'm talking about is not like a robot or machine or tool. They have their own self-organizing power within. As I said earlier, we have this life on Earth from the dust of the universe, the particles, whatever, combination to amoeba formed, and then another level, and let us, and the tree, and monkey, and we got here, even be able to communicate. So this is fantastic and amazing, and it's a miracle. So let's look at the miracle of internal within each. So as much as I talked about the barriers within the organization, vertical barrier, they speak a different language, and the horizontal barrier, they speak different. They have the local optimization, egocentric way, maybe not, because they need to be custom-oriented, but the whole orchestration, without anyone orchestrating, would be the best, rather than someone telling what to do and others saying, just tell me what to do, because it's not empowering. So the same happens within each individual. And the simple way I said in another book, the third one, is the result from the heart. I'm talking about the brain or the mind on one space, and the heart within, which is the source of where we came from. And that source has the infinite possibility processed as intelligence, say, compassion, and wisdom. That's how we are ending up here. And we live to make the most of what we got and transfer the skill to others where we live and to the next generation. And that's how the progression is being made. That's what I see. So as much as I mentioned about organizational setup and stuff, applies to each individual. The idea of the mini company become a mini me and a mini me. So the same, I call it, the Arthur Kessler mentioned the Holon structure. Same structure, you are the center, be the master of your destiny, customer, supplier, banker, employee, and you orchestrate whatever you can. And everybody's doing the same, so they link up like a network. That's a Kagan idea of interpenetration and interaction among all the cells. But just like Taoism talk about the nature to make it happen, that's nature's way. And I use the term heart represent the nature or the universe, law of the universe, I call it. It's manifesting in us. That's why I'm still alive. It's not my ego making me alive in here. Do this, do that. It's not the way. But the body cells have an inherent intelligence, somehow developed over time because of the ancestors going through the suffering, all the difficulties that I cannot laugh at it. It's a very serious thing. And I can picture sometimes that, why we are here is someone found a way, the fire, instead of fire distinguished and very sad and cold. All these sad and cold or difficult situations happen in the past. We may not realize it, but I feel it. Every suffering is helping me for that the suffering to be overcome with intelligence, compassion, and with the tools, including AI, to that level that we are to and what's the word? Capture and move on to the next level. So that's the journey of the species of living being, and somehow we are connected to each other. So we have to be careful about the climate exchange and this extinction of certain species, all that kind of stuff. But I'm going a little bit too much. So back to individual's case. Organizational enlightenment, there's individual enlightenment or awakening that happens. And I had one of those experiences, believe it or not. In Vipassana meditation, sitting still, be quiet, observe my mind, be quiet, calm and quiet, and something happens. And something happened, you don't know if you're egocentric and worry about why am I sitting here, what's the point of it? And you are told, look at the, study your breathing, be sensitive about it, or inner body sensation, how your hand, finger, brain, heart, leg, how they're feeling. That's the sensation. That is bringing the sensation into process of figuring out the way so that we can live every day. That's internal engine, call it heart or the body functioning. So the brain is thinking that they're wise and I can do this, I should do this. I have to buy this and have this money, and how do I have to spend this, and all the busy stuff that you worry about. But instead of worrying and anxious and living like that, there's some engine functioning so that the gap between the brain and heart has to be somehow find a way to connect. But that's a paradox. That's why I use the word mirror mind. You want to look at yourself. There are two yous. And if you know something about Eckhart Tolle, I had similar experience. In his case, the experience was he wondered, he was such a suffering. Why I suffer? What did he say? I cannot stand myself. And then he thought there are two me's. I cannot understand, or I cannot stand with myself. Me and looking at me. So that's the me relationship. Different me's, like a mini-me and a mini-me. Or this is the case of difference between the brain me and the heart me. So if the brain me understands the heart me, and heart me can see what brain me is doing, I use the word mirror mind. When that happens, just going back to the awakening, that's very interesting, and I can maybe spend more time about it. When the awakening happens, it's out of somewhere else. It's beyond the mind barrier. And there's a word heart that may explain it, that the heart part just erupt if you have your mind quiet. Because if your mind is calm and quiet and doing nothing, but focusing on breathing for 4 days, and another 5 days looking at inner body sensation, every part of it, without any mind involvement. When the mind moves, you let the mind stay and let them go away. You're not pushing it, but it evaporates like puff of the cloud going away. If you equip to this skill of observation of yourself, you observing yourself again, right? And if you learn that, you can see the relationship and brain part, mind part, egotistical part, and why am I sitting, and what's the point of it, kind of thing. The other one is there's something in here functioning, but since this is not moving at the top mind level, this internal situation is, this is my playground. I've been always waiting and working to pump the blood to do this, and the nutrition process, the hormone develop, and the work for the muscle and the brain get some energy. So that's the infrastructure behind the mind-brain part that's going on. And that part become empowered. So that's the mini-me level of the cells and the connection between the heart and lung and the bits and pieces, and they are working together, but they have more freedom. So that they self-organize better because of this decentralized way of they function. Because brain cannot tell all the detail of where the nutrition should go, how much and all that, but they help each other to figure this out. Okay, I spend 15 minutes. So I'll do another 5 minutes. So if that happens, wow! This is the 8th day in the afternoon. I have a report. If you're interested, you can read how it happened. By the 8th day, I was having such a pain and I couldn't stand it. As Eckhart Tolle said, I couldn't stand myself. I was in the same space. And then I thought, is it because I'm trying to escape from the pain? I have a pain. Then I was looking at me as if another me is looking at me, thinking, are you doing something you're not supposed to do? If you try to escape your pain with your ego, it's not going to work because you're beating yourself and you're using the same track of thinking process to figure out and trying to get out of this. But if you listen to the heart and let them speak, and that's what happened. Bang! Earth-shattering experience. And I didn't know what happened. But there's ecstasy and there's more stuff I can talk about. The life energy is pouring and the dynamic situation happened. So unbelievable. Pain's gone. I had a smile. I got the idea of what this awakening or enlightenment is, but I didn't know. There's no reference except some word, but I couldn't connect. So it took time to figure out as much as Eckhart Tolle did. And of course, he's much better to explain and going through this 30, 40, 50 years. I had this experience when I was 52. But my experience of the organizational enlightenment and the interest in Zen and the practice of Vipassana, it's similar to Zen, triggered that moment of rapture, the explosion, so to speak, of what is suppressed because of the brain pushing, this is my way, my life, I'm going to work, money and ladies and fun and all the ecstasy, whatever you can think about, and just pursue it. But that's just within this mind because of the TV and marketing, and you're supposed to do this, and from your childhood and the past or the conditioning, when you grow up, you're supposed to do this. But that's just a human constrained view or karma process. But that is questioned by having nothing to do within the mind because you're focused on what's going on internal to you, deep inside of you. So the awakening happened. Wonderful. Then the point, that was 22 years ago, maybe 23 by now. I've been trying to explain. It's not easy to explain. I'm doing it in 20 minutes. The relationship, organizational enlightenment, individual enlightenment, the process, the state, mirror mind, looking at yourself without mind observing, but having a pause to see. Just observe, be aware. Mind is clear. Then you see yourself. And it's not just Zen, but Meister Eckhart said, the eye looking at me is the eye of God or some such thing. So there's a mirror relationship, you and yourself, or God and you, whatever the term it is, and that can happen. If that doesn't happen, that's okay. But have a pause so that you don't make a premature judgment with a limited brain, information base and stuff like that. So AI can help to process this because they have the whole human experience in some way or the other captured in a huge database, and they sort out if you ask the right question. That if you bring out the problem in a manner that they can understand, they can respond back to you where the bottleneck is and what can be done. So basically, that's about the brief structure of the organizational and individual enlightenment, but also mini enlightenment is the wisdom and compassion, or Another way of saying is that even not the wisdom and compassion, you can make a right judgment at the time when you have a pause, looking at yourself, quiet mind, and you have this sense. It's not something natural that you can get because of the stuff that accumulated about habit. But with this concept, with your interest, some interesting stuff can happen. And that's my message. If you have any question, please respond. Also, I have a bunch of 600, 700 videos posted to work out myself, and I'm still working on it because the organization, society change, I change. The issue is always shifting, but we have a way. Let's have fun, enjoy life, and may all beings be happy. Thank you.